transition. Luke and 7 Platoon were based at checkpoint Salat. Jimmy and the assault pioneers were 12 kilometres away at checkpoint Pan Calais. The men were taking over from a force of US Marines 3 times bigger.
When are you off? We're leaving on Sunday. Hopefully get out of this country within the next 2 weeks.
Boom, bringing ass to fight. I like it.
When we ripped in, they were tired and they'd clearly had quite a rough time.
You've got one piece of advice for a sea company.
You need to be flexible and very, very patient.
On their first day, Jimmy and the platoon were taken out in vehicles by the Marines on a brief handover patrol.
As you can see, we're completely static. We had probably a 2-minute convoy briefing from the Americans.
To give you an example of how perhaps there was a hole in the handover, on the first patrol we did with them, Corporal Katir was shot.
Corporal Dave Katir was one of the most senior men in Jimmy's platoon. He was shot in the leg as he crossed from one vehicle to another.
I heard a gunshot. I was like, Dave, you alright, mate? He was like, yeah, there's some sweets in my day sack. Did you go and grab them for the lads? And I was like, Dave, you've just been shot with the Taliban. Are you alright? Obviously, he'd been injected with morphine, so he was all over the place, high as a kite.
I think everyone thought, you know, unlucky. You know, it's the first time we've gone out on patrol, joint patrol, it's just caught around in the leg. Because it was gunshot wounds, now, because of IEDs, we kind of see that as a lesser thing. It's like we'd almost want to be shot, like, oh, he's been shot, yeah, he's alive when we left him, he's going to make a full recovery, happy.
Corporal Katir was flown out safely, but the Taliban had wasted no time welcoming the newcomers.
After it all calmed down and we got Cat out of there, I was like, shit the bed, this is going to be a ruthless tour.
Okay, so you guys, my break is to get all you back alive, right? So anything happens, right, look to me, I will fucking try my best to get you back, whether it be on a helicopter, vehicle, whatever it is.
Over the next few days, all but a few Marines withdrew from the area, leaving Jimmy and Luke to run things their way.
Should we give this protect Route 611? That's what we're doing here. Okay, let's get to it.
They decided to take a very different approach in securing the road. Instead of going out in vehicles, they would patrol on foot. Jimmy will be patrolling from his base where the Route 611 meets the Nez Canal, which was the enemy's front line. Everything to the west of the canal was Taliban territory. A few days after arriving in their base, Jimmy received a tip-off from a local village, telling him an IED had been laid right on the bank of the canal. He decided to go and find it.
I took a risk and said, fine, let's go and check it. You know, let's show them that we're here, we're dominating the ground, this is our patch, and we'll move where we want.
No, we'll go from the front of the patrol.
It was the first time most of the platoon had left the security of the base, including John Ward, whose job it was to look for the IED.
Obviously it's a war zone, you know, before I went to Afghanistan it was a thing playing games, you know, so, you know, it is for real now.
While John searched the ground for explosive devices, Jordan Crowder was the cover man, acting as his eyes and ears.
We just thought it was a bit weird, but we've got to go and do it for the locals, basically just say like, yeah, we're not scared, we've all like checked things out.
The search took them to the edge of the canal, but there was no IED to be found.
There's nothing, no? Have you found all at the edge?
Something's not normal, something's not right. Where is everyone? Why is locals telling us that there's an ID there?
Yeah, that's weird.
Across the canal, they spotted movement.
Longbow button. Be ready for those.
From one atmosphere to another, it can change so quickly.
So we were lured out. You always have a bad feeling when you're marching around in the open in front of various enemy firing points.
Okay, so 40, you need off.
Everyone was getting agitated and was ready. Wanted to get out of the area as soon as.
Where might you going back to?
As they approached the safety of their base, in an alleyway, they found themselves channeled and vulnerable.
I was in ambush. I heard the gunshot, I turned around, I saw him, but I wasn't sure at that time whether he was dead, whether he was in hurt or what.
Man down! Give me some cover, it's fine now! 3-3, this is 3-3 Alpha, we have a man down.
I ran out to grab him. The boss joined us, Mr. Clark joined us, and we started ripping his body armour off, trying to find the actual entry wound.
Near the back of the patrol, Tom Maguire had been shot by a sniper from across the canal.
I looked at him as he was going whiter and whiter in the face. And you just, at that point, it was quite very concerned that he might not actually make this.
He's alright.
It's just sort of being hit by Mike Tyson with a hammer.
The bullet shattered on impact, and shrapnel ricocheted around Tom's body, causing internal damage.
Started a load of shrapnel and made a mistake there. I'd broken 3 ribs, 3 vertebrae, lost part of my lung, cracked my shoulder blade as well. They put me to sleep in the end for my operation. I woke up 5 days later.
Tom was flown back to the UK. His tour was over.
I think someone said at this rate we're going to have no one left by the end, which is what it would have been. It was like, I think we only had 28 blokes to start with in the CP, and within a week we'd already lost 2 people. We had to be there for 7 months.
Despite the attacks on Jimmy's men, he and Luke were determined to push out on foot. They needed to find out the extent of the Taliban threat and started patrolling the local villages.
We need to know who lived here and try and distinguish between who were the locals, who were the people we're trying to protect, and who were the insurgents.
Is there much Taliban influence in this area?
But the reception wasn't a warm one.
Mostly they're too scared to want to speak to us or just too scared for themselves because they've just been on that sort of patrol.
Don't overextend!
It was becoming clear why the locals were so nervous. The Taliban were watching.
Yeah, just on the high ground over there, there's 3 blokes watching us.
While the men were trying to build a picture of their enemy, the Taliban were doing exactly the same.
We started going out the checkpoints, out to the villages, out on the ground. So then the insurgents tactics sort of changed to try and aim for, our foot soldiers that are on the ground. So once that started happening, the threat level in the area just rose.
Around Luke's checkpoint at Salat, IEDs were starting to appear. 19-year-old Chris Scott had volunteered to find them whenever 7 Platoon went out on patrol.
Your mind needs to be 100% focused. You can't start thinking about what could happen. You've got to think about what you are doing at that precise moment.
to get that close and find an IED to prevent anyone else in the call sign stepping on it, that's a big deal.
On an early patrol, Luke wanted to investigate a compound on the bank of the canal that the Taliban were known to use as a firing base.
He'll point to a specific place, a compound, head towards that direction, and he'll let me pick the route. The Americans that were there before us obviously had a lot of problems with the areas around the checkpoint, so we were there and we thought we'd take it over, show them what the units can do.
There's a bridge, we're not going to go over the bridge.
Chris led the platoon to the compound on the edge of the canal.
I spotted from a bit of a distance that on the corner of the compound there's like an irregular feature. And we was really close to the firing points. I mean, we could see him.
Boss, what's all that doing shit? What's all that hating shit?
And then, obviously, everything went bad after that. And your heart just sinks, you start getting angry.
On the other side of the compound, a US Marine who'd been attached to Luke's platoon had stepped on an IED.
Just see the dust cloud, and see it disappear. At first it didn't seem real, for like the first second or so, I was like, what? And then, obviously, really real.
Got a Cat A casualty, double amputee.
Yeah!
The casualty was in danger of bleeding to death. Luke told Chris to clear a safe path to get him out.
Roger.
But the quickest way out was across the bridge he'd avoided earlier. The Taliban were known to booby-trap the most obvious routes for carrying casualties.
There was an ID there. I told Cookie was in there, but he's wrong. Shit. I don't know if
I'm still not sure how much he cleared that route or how much he went for and walked.
bridge is clear. Get the stretcher up! Get the stretcher up! Go. Get him on the back of that wagon!
So obviously I walked past that area, I was thinking a lot about where it was, what was around it at the time. It just happened to be that spot. It was really unlucky.
The US Marine was in a helicopter on his way to hospital just 12 minutes after the explosion. He'd lost one of his legs and suffered severe injury to the other.
Right, that's how serious it's getting out here. Right? Fucking man down there, he's 16. Right? We're not fucking playing games out here. We need to be switching on patrol. Every fucker thinking what they're doing. Alright? It's not a game. Everyone not doing the same, anything to each other for about 5-10 minutes. And we just started easing into it. Talking about it.
I'm shaking. Did you both me? I just think for myself. I just wish things could happen differently.
I'm sure that wasn't the only IED in the ground there. It went off. That day was a successful Taliban.
What we're cooking, fellas?
At their base, 12 kilometres away, Jimmy and his men had listened to the whole thing unfolding on the radio.
The dread, I didn't know if it was Luke, just thinking, there's nothing I can do, and that anger is still with me. That feeling of helplessness and anger at a situation and the fact that you are helpless.
The two platoons had been living separately in their bases for just a few weeks, but already they'd taken casualties, and the enemy were laying IEDs at will. They had to hit back.
Apaches are flying overhead, ready to kill the insurgent bastards.
You get this feeling of aggression, and you kind of think, okay, if it's not going to be peaceful and it's going to be warry, then we're going to get warry.
Jimmy and his platoon received new orders to lure the Taliban into a trap.
Okay, most of you have been out on the ground, as you know, we're patrolling to the north, through the fields.
But for the plan to work, the pioneers would have to act as bait.
We are taking as many quarters as we can.
You have a foot patrol which has air support. You go, you get contacted, you're being fired at from a location, and the helicopter can come in and kill that guy.
It was quite a shocking thing for all of us to hear that. It was like, yeah, well,
Our job was to get shot at. So.
How you feeling, Martin? Awesome. Good. Ready to get back out there? Yeah, I suppose.
I don't want to play anymore.
I wanted to go home.
That face says it all, doesn't it?
Hi, I'm Lance Copper Shepherd. This will be the last to see me. That's suicide.
Hi, I'm Private Morgan. I'll be picking up Shep's legs.
The men set off on what they nicknamed Op Bait, knowing exactly where to meet the enemy.
I'm now at the canal. Now at the canal.
Jordan Crowder was wearing his head cam. Also filming just a few metres behind him was James Hughes.
We were right next to the canal, like right on the top of it, and we spotted a few people.
Literally just like a stone's throw away.
Get down.
Jimmy started sending information for the Apache helicopter that was standing by.
We knew something was going to happen, and Paul Shepherd could see somebody looking through a murder hole at him.
Even though some of the patrol could see the enemy, the Apache wouldn't attack until they'd been shot at.
That's acting on the casualty when we're pushing through here, okay? Once we win the firefight, we can extract the casualty up and take the track that runs up through Haji Hashan's compound, okay? Everybody understood? Yeah.
Once you've put everything in place, then that's it, and then you're good to go. So you go.
Fucking nice kill.
Boss gave his orders, like what's happening here and everything, and then we decided to patrol onwards. I think the order went Scully, Lance Corporal Woodward, Loss.
Then me, then Hughes.